The virus raised the rules. And this one, like all influenza viruses, can change the rules without rhyme or reason at any time. The virus raised the rules. And this one, like all influenza viruses, can change the rules without rhyme or reason at any time. The virus raised the rules. And this one, like all influenza viruses, can change the rules without rhyme or reason at any time.
This is Brass Check, and it's July 6th, 2020. And I don't know when we're going to get this one out, but I like to timestamp things because we seem to be scooping everybody. For months now, people have been talking about China, the Wuhan virus. First it was coming, then it came. Then the question was it invented? Was it developed in a lab? Was it released deliberately? Was it released by accident? Is this some grand Chinese strategy? Let's get to a much simpler explanation of things. This is a commercial enterprise. It involves people who want vaccines to be mandatory and global. And they were very upfront about that. And one of the people who's part of that movement, besides Tony Fauci, is a woman named Margaret Chan. And why she's not in the spotlight and hasn't been in the spotlight continuously is just a testament to how bad the news media is. And that includes the so-called independent news media and even some of the otherwise savvy critics of the medical system. Margaret Chan's been given a free pass. So who is Margaret Chan? Well, she's an incompetent, for one thing. She's an egomaniac, for another thing. When she was head of the World Health Organization, which she was for 2 terms, she spent lavishly on herself. She was a real Mandarin, and I know my Chinese listeners will appreciate that. Just really felt she was part of the imperial family and lived accordingly on public money. But she started out as some kind of public health official in Hong Kong under the British, and then somehow, when the communists took over, they kept her. They kind of liked this woman, and they put her forward as their nomination to run the World Health Organization, which she did right up until 2017. And she's part of something called the Global Health Leaders, the Global Vaccine Action Plan, founded by none other than Bill and Melinda Gates 10 years ago. And you do not have to be an investigative reporter. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist. You just have to make an effort to understand what's going on. And it's mind-boggling that nobody in the news media world seems to be doing that. So let's read from the Global Vaccine Action Plan. The World Health Organization, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, that's Fauci's group, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have announced a collaboration to increase coordination across the international vaccine community and create a global vaccine action plan. This plan will build on the successes of current work to achieve key milestones in the discovery, development, and delivery of life-saving vaccines to the most vulnerable populations in the poorest countries over the next decades. So this was laid out in 2010. And this Global Vaccine Action Plan will enable greater coordination across all stakeholders. That's national governments, multilateral organizations, civil society, the private sector, and philanthropic organizations. So who's on this leadership council? Well, Dr. Anthony S. Fauci, director of the NIAID, Dr. Margaret Chan, then Director General of the World Health Organization. Now, by the way, she's just a straight-up communist government official. But so 10 years ago, somehow, this private foundation managed to enroll the Director General of the World Health Organization and the Director of the NIAID, that's Tony Fauci, into a scheme to basically, vaccinate the world. And that's what Jason's been talking about nonstop. He's right up front about what he's doing and what the end game is. So when we look at the insanity out of China, because that's where all this insanity started, and we've got that case even recently where they had 100 positive tests, not people who were sick, not people with any symptoms at all, but just 100 positive tests of a test that we've shown many times to be absolute garbage. That was enough to justify the lockdown of 200,000 human beings. And a lockdown in China, communist China, is not a suggestion. It is enforced by the military police with roadblocks, with patrols, with curfews. So that's Margaret Chan's backyard, taking 100 positive tests and turning it into 200,000 people under lockdown. And she's been a longtime colleague of Tony Fauci, and they all work for Bill Gates. And Bill Gates wants universal, mandatory vaccines. They also talk about the discovery, development, and delivery. Now, you don't really discover vaccines, you develop them, so I don't know what this discovery part is. One of the biggest things in COVID and also in the other frauds, by the way, all the Zika fraud, the Ebola fraud, the swine flu fraud, all these were run under Margaret Chan. I might have left that out. She was running the World Health Organization during all of those scams. She also participated and participates continuously in the never-ending AIDS scam. So she is one of the key scammers in this whole thing. And one of the places this is leading is when they talk about the development of vaccines. What they're really talking about is the dissolution, the gutting, the abolition of the Nuremberg principles that were set down after the Allies defeated the Nazi government. There were trials, and a lot of doctors went on trial. And if we had a just world, we would see people like Fauci and Chan. That will never happen, but we can dream. But anyway, the Nazi doctors did not get away with it. Some of them were imprisoned, some of them were executed. And one of the things that came out of that whole experience was the creation of principles of what is ethically permitted and not ethically permitted in the practice of medicine, including activities under the umbrella of medical testing. Because that is how the Nazis covered themselves. The Nazis were very legalistic. They actually followed their laws to a T. For example, why did they put Jewish people and others on boxcars and send them out of Germany to camps in other countries? Because as soon as they did that, they could declare them non-citizens. And as soon as they were not citizens, they didn't have protection under the law. And as soon as they didn't have protection under German law, you could do anything you wanted to them, which is what they did. And then they removed all the ethical people from medicine, which included a whole lot of Jewish physicians, professors, heads of hospitals, clinicians, and people in government posts. And they replaced them with Nazi Party members. In fact, the medical profession in Nazi Germany had a higher representation of active Nazi Party members than any other profession in Germany. Anyway, without getting into the gruesome details, and they are gruesome, these maniacs went wild. And some, but not all, some of their depravity was documented. And some, but not all, of it ended up as evidence in court. And pretty shocking stuff. And out of that came principles, again, designed to protect the human being in medical research contexts. And one of the great goals of Tony Fauci is to erode and denature and weaken those laws. And in order to accomplish that, he has appointed his wife, Christine Grady, they were married in 1986, as head of ethics and human experimentation standards at the National Institutes of Health. This is not a conspiracy theory. You can look up Christine Grady and see that, yes, that woman is married to Tony Fauci, and you can read her job description on the NIH website. Okay? We weren't the first people to reveal this, but we were one of the earliest. This was a month plus ago, and it's still not news. But anyway, we have some very, very sinister people who are calling the shots. And this little clip that I found, which I'm going to play again for you if it doesn't annoy you too much, gives their whole game plan. They're going to declare a virus, and they're going to do this again, by the way. This is going to go on and on and on and on until they're stopped. Then they're going to declare a virus, and then they're going to declare that they have the right to do anything they want to, quote, control it. And they've shown the game plan in China, and they're enacting similar laws in the UK. We're trying to get an expert on. By the way, that's our hardest challenge, is getting people, just finding them and getting them to talk. Many dozens and dozens of hours go into that. But they're enacting similar but different rules in the UK using the National Health Service. They're basically deputizing the National Health Service to be a very much Nazi-like organization, quite frankly. So here we are with our messy democracy here in the United States, and I'm hoping that we keep it messy and we make it very, very difficult for these people to carry out what they want to carry out. And it's just, they have a very simple goal. They want every year for you to receive a series of vaccinations every year for the rest of your life. And they want the bill paid for with tax dollars. And they want to be immune from all liability should you get injured. And they want to be able to change the laws of human experimentation and the natural progression and the safe and sane progression of vaccine and drug development. They want those out the window. And they want to be able to test on human beings more aggressively. And they want to be able to create an endless array of products which you're compelled to take. That's all they want. They're not asking for much. It's a very modest goal. And thanks to our idiot news media, which includes a whole lot of so-called independent investigative journalists, this thing's moving along. So share the video, and here's the message again from the leader, one of the leaders.
The virus raised the roofs, and this one, like all influenza viruses, can change the rules without rhyme or reason at any time.
There will be the ability, particularly in rich countries, to open up if things are done well over the next few months. But for the world at large, normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population.